Good morning. Oh, that is such a warm and beautiful welcome. I want to hear it again. Good morning. I'm just here to formally kick us off. I am like, my heart is extremely full to see so many folks come in this morning, but beyond that, to know and understand the impact of the Dreamkeeper Initiative. So can you just give it up for yourselves for... I get the opportunity to introduce Dr. Sai, but there are a couple of things that I want to do at the beginning. I know many of you have probably heard me with this, the one poem that I probably talk about all the time that I learned when I was probably 8 or 9 for Black History Month at church, and I had to learn the poem, and I could still see my mother's fingers in the audience, like if I didn't get it right, she was gonna give me a little pinch at the end. But it means so much to me. Like, I go back to it over and over again because it is the reason why programs like the Dreamkeeper Initiatives are so important. I would be like full grown before I knew that the poem was not called Dream Deferred, but was really titled Harlem. And it made it that much more poignant when you think about the words of the poem. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it sags like a heavy load. Or does it explode? So we are in this time and place where we have seen really what happens when a dream is deferred. People get frustrated, things blow up, they explode. People also gloss things over and think about them in this sweet, kind, like, oh, everything is all good, everything's great, right? But it also is a burden to carry your dream and never be able to see it become real, or even be able to see like it move towards becoming real. And so the reason why the Dreamkeeper Initiative, and even just the book of poetry from Langston Hughes, the Dreamkeeper Initiative, is so important is because it is hard to dream. It is hard to believe in something you have not yet seen. And yet you need each other, and we need each other, and we need resources and commitment, and we need all of those things to dream. And I always talk about there's a line in Maya Angelou's poem that says, "Don't show me frogs and snakes, and listen for my screams. If I'm afraid at all, it's only in my dreams." Dreaming is scary. It's hard to dream for something and then see it collapse, and then to dream again, right? That it's easy to come to expect that life is going to be filled with discrimination and bias and hard times and hardships and poor inequality when it comes to education and housing and all of those things. It's easy to accept that as the norm. It's hard to dream for something better. Dreamkeeper is about dreaming for something better, and I want to thank you all for dreaming with us. Can you give yourselves a round again? So in that, I want to say, and she is not here, I just want to thank, and maybe, I don't know who's got a camera, maybe we can turn the lights up. I would really love to just say thank you to Mayor Breed and have her see your faces, somebody to tape that and see folks clapping and doing all the stuff. I don't know, I think I got my phone, because people can say what they want to. As somebody who, I know I'm not a native, but I've been here almost 30 years. You can, oh, people can say all they want to about like what Mayor Breed's commitment is to Black folks, but I will say, as somebody who's been here for 30 years and worked for the city and county of San Francisco since 2006, I've never seen the commitment or investment that Mayor Breed made through Dreamkeeper Initiative. So when somebody says, what has she done for Black folks, I would say $60 million a year for the last 4 years. That's what I would say. And so with that, I was very fortunate, 3, 4 years ago, 2, 3 years ago, to have someone who was willing to lead that work that I'll bring up. But I also just want to recognize there are too many community partners to name, to thank, to recognize, and we will do our best to do that. But I was telling Dr. Sai, you know, some of you all know I'm a woman of faith, and my morning scripture this morning was about apologizing and being mindful of your language and your tone. So I know I had to apologize. The last couple weeks I've used some not very holy language with some of y'all, so I will publicly apologize for that. But our community partners, the city is very hard to move things, and a lot of times we are able to leverage private dollars and do other things to make things happen. And we don't always give credit where credit is due. And it is a fight for you all to do this work, so I thank you for what you are doing. But I wanted to publicly thank, because Beyond 8 really brought it to my attention this morning, as well as other folks. I wanted to publicly thank Collective Impact and James Spengola for their work and support in making this happen. So, Beyond 8 who has done an amazing job. Give it up for Beyond 8 if you were able to see the space, the activations, the books, and all the things that they've set up. Was able to work very closely with Collective Impact and Director Spengola, so I just wanted to say thank you to them and to him for their work and their commitment. And now I am going to yield the floor to someone who will do an amazing job of introducing herself, and already has on so many fronts. This work is hard and challenging, so I do want to thank and recognize all the Human Rights Commission staff that are in here. Can we give it up for them? Thank you to the folks here at the War Memorial who have been so gracious to us. But a few years ago, when I was wondering where to go and what to do and who could help really lead the Dreamkeeper Initiative, because I knew it was very special to the mayor, and it was also very special to me. And I wanted somebody that was gonna have a heart for community, that was not gonna personalize when they got cussed out, not by me, because I don't do a lot of cussing, but that was gonna, not a lot, but that was gonna be committed to the work. And, you know, like, if we're honest, that had the credibility to say that she was a native, born and raised right here in San Francisco, because I know how y'all roll. You know, she missed it on the basketball tip, but she got it on the 49ers football tip. She with y'all on that. I'm not gonna tell you who she for with the basketball. But that she has done a tremendous job leading and building and setting up the Dreamkeeper Initiative in a way that I don't think anybody else could have done. And I am forever grateful for her talent, her genius, and her creativity. Please give it up for Dr. Saidah Leatutufu-Burch.
It took us a few years to get to that point, because y'all know Dr. Davis don't hug everybody, but I have a special place in her heart now. Good morning. So just as I do every time I speak, I must invoke the spirit of my ancestors who woke me up this morning. My name is Dr. Saidah Leatutufu-Burch. I'm a Black and Indigenous Samoan daughter of San Francisco, wife, sister, friend, organizer, cultural orator, disruptor of anti-Black racism and white supremacist ideology, and advancer of Black liberation and Indigenous sovereignty. Why? Because Black liberation is possible in this lifetime. So just as Langston Hughes asked, what happens to a dream deferred, we're in a moment where we can ask, what happens to a dream realized? I can wake up on a Thursday morning and be in a room full of Black beauty, Black brilliance. I can stand before you today and experience a moment where this event has grown exponentially. We are at the 3rd annual Dreamkeeper Initiative celebration. You may remember 3 years ago, we were at the public library. Last year, the Commonwealth Club. And this year here at War Memorial Veterans Building, we continue to take up space and continue to reclaim our roots and continue to let folks know that black folks are here. We're going to be here. We ain't going nowhere, so they better prepare for us in our presence going forward. So, dreaming forward. Today is about a celebration. It is about an experience. We want you to experience all of the investment that Mayor Breed has put forth, has dedicated. We want you to experience the labor of love because, y'all, this was a labor of love today. But we are excited to have you all here. And, of course, I want to express my gratitude first to San Francisco's black community. Without y'all, that's a typo, but without the black community advocating, showing up day in and day out, holding us accountable to do this work, we would not be here. I would not be here. So thank you specifically to black folks in San Francisco. And thank you to our allies and accomplices as well. To the 80-plus organizations, some of who was referenced earlier, thank you for your day-to-day work. We know it's not easy when stipends don't get paid, but that is a labor of love and a testament to the commitment of the organizations that are rooted in this city. I want to thank our Community Accountability Committee, which is an external body, so folks who continue to hold us accountable and operationalize a feedback loop so that we can always improve. The Dreamkeeper Initiative is about continuous learning and improving and growing as a testament to this room. And then I want to thank specifically our departmental partners. So while the Human Rights Commission serves as the lead organization or the lead agency for this work sets the strategy, mission, and vision, there are a whole host of departmental partners who are listed here: the Adult Probation Department, Arts Commission, the Department of Children, Youth, and Their Families, the Department of Early Childhood, the Department of Human Resources, the Department of Public Health, a whole lot of departments, y'all, the District Attorney's Office, the Fire Department, the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development, Public Defender's Office, and the Office of Economic and Workforce Development. So many of you, I couldn't list all the folks, but there is a team of 30-plus individuals who are working every day in the city to get those contract reimbursements out on time, to help to implement the work. And so it is, I would be remiss if I didn't thank our departmental partners. Additionally, I get to work with a brilliant group of individuals every day at the Human Rights Commission. And so I have to thank personally the team at the Human Rights Commission, the Dreamkeeper team, James Lockhart, Lila Vega, Rebecca LaDolce, Chidima Ohanale, Prel Gilton, Stephanie Garcia, and our newest member, Stephen Ragler. We are really excited. So that team holds it down every single day. And of course, I will be remiss if I did not thank this individual. So there are leaders who are great at getting folks to follow. And then there are leaders who are amazing at letting other folks lead and creating space for other folks to lead. And so I have to personally thank Director Davis, and there is supposed to be, if Robert can hear me, if you would come up, because I'm a proponent and the team is a proponent of giving folks their flowers. This work, this shit, in the words of James Pengola, is not easy. So I'm gonna say the cuss word. Like Sheryl Evans Davis is a godsend. We will share tears later, but for now, I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for trusting me, Dr. Davis. Thank you for allowing me to be as creative as I am and for pouring into me for these last couple of years. I so appreciate you. So why are we here? You may remember a couple of years ago when Black folks organized on the heels of the murder of George Floyd. There were companies and cities alike that said Black Lives Mattered. And I did a lot of talk, but they wasn't walking. And so Mayor Breed and the then president of the Board of Supervisors, Supervisor Shaman Walton, and Sheryl Davis, alongside the Black community, said, we're gonna start walking, and in fact, we're going to run. No time for planning, $60 million a year, make it happen. And here we are today. So that dream is realized. What happens to a dream realized? As we think about the continuous vision and goal of the Dreamkeeper Initiative, the Dreamkeeper Initiative is all about Black folks specifically experiencing prosperity and liberation and having the ability and the space to imagine a future in this city. There's an activation just in the Ed Studio where you will be able to write down, how do you imagine a future in San Francisco? We want to create space for dreaming, and we also want to create space for realization, which is why our goal is that as an intergenerational effort, we really want Black San Franciscans to experience feelings of joy and safety, to advance educationally and economically, and to experience holistic health as well as thrive. Because all of these things are not an exception, all of these things are our birthright as folks who built this city. Our commitment remains the same. We're going to remain in this next year committed to growing financial health and economic well-being. We're going to remain committed to providing access to culturally relevant social, emotional, physical wellness activities. I want to thank our mental health practitioners who are in the room. I want to thank our community healers who are in the room. We're going to continue to prioritize our Black-led and Black-serving storytellers. There's a lot in the news. I remember the headline when I started in this role was paying criminals not to shoot people. And most recently, there was a headline that said $60 million why we should continue to invest in San Francisco. And so creating our own stories and telling our own narratives and correcting the narrative is what we will continue to invest in. We want to ensure that our Black-led and Black-serving organizations have the infrastructure to provide the quality services and are financially solvent. I think too often there have been punitive practices within the city that have divested or look for reasons to divest in community partners, but we want to be intentional about building capacity. Providing access for all learners to culturally affirming curriculum and academic experiences, because we know our history and the telling of our history is under attack in this country. And we know that it is important to prioritize telling our own stories and learning our own history because nobody will do it for us. We'll build culturally affirming spaces that celebrate Black folks, such as this. Foster environments for community-led innovations. By a show of hands, who's received a mini grant of sorts from Collective Impact, Homeless Children's Network, Into Action, the Arts Commission, right? So we want to continue to seed those innovations, which creates the space, again, for people to dream and realize their dreams. And then finally, offer equitable access to holistic care for youth and their families. So just a bit about the investment. You would often hear colleagues or folks say being Black in San Francisco is not monolithic, we're a megalith. Shout out to Mega Black, who was a part of the organizing in this effort. And this is representative of Black folks not only being concentrated or residing in Bayview and Fillmore. We have an entire footprint across San Francisco, and this is representative of where Dreamkeeper dollars are reaching. Almost every supervisory district. So when folks say, oh, no Black folks in the Presidio, no Black folks in Park Merced, this is where our investments are going. Community engagement has remained a priority for us this year and will remain a priority for us. Last year, we launched our community office hours. So if anyone would like to, on a monthly basis, meet with me and some folks from the team just to chop it up, or ask questions, or give feedback, or cuss me out, you might get cussed out back, then you are welcome to do that. Like, you know, I'm in a professional setting, but I'm still from the city. We can do that, and so we rotate neighborhoods every month, really because community said, we want to see more. How do we find out about this information? We don't want this information to be a secret. Government has held secrets for too long, and so we want to be as transparent as possible so that you know every step of the way. We got y'all. I will quickly go through this because this report, all of what you see behind me, is also available in the Dreamkeeper bookstore just across the hall. But I want to thank all of our departmental partners and community organizations who contributed to this data when we think about the milestones that we've reached in the last year as it relates to economic mobility. So workforce. Hundreds or dozens of people have gained occupational skills and are earning a wage above minimum wage. In terms of internal investments, we're seeing intentional pathways to support folks who work for the city and county of San Francisco get promoted, become public civil servants, and be able to sustain their experience within the city. Our businesses, we continuously see the opening of new businesses, the budding of new entrepreneurs, the amount of capital, over $2 million in capital provided to small business owners, specifically Black entrepreneurs in this city, and the showcase of pop-ups on the plaza at the Ferry Building where thousands of folks visit the farmers market. Y'all, I went to the Juneteenth pop-up on the plaza, and I must say, as a daughter of San Francisco, the farmer's market was not for me. There was no time where I would feel like I belonged at a farmer's market. But with Juneteenth on the plaza and what they're doing to support those entrepreneurs, to invite them into spaces that at times we don't feel like we belong. I could tell you on that day and in these moments, I felt like I belonged. And finally, home buyers as it relates to wealth building. They say that home ownership is one of the greatest tools to building wealth. And so the work that the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development is doing, specifically Anika Harrell, and in partnership with us, we've exponentially grown Black homeowners in this city. So there was a time where in a span of 7 years, there were 5 folks who identified as Black purchased homes through the city's down payment assistance. In the span of 2 years, 30 who identify as Black, and another 13 who are non-Black, but majority folks of color, have been able to purchase homes through the Dreamkeeper down payment assistance. Again, intentionality. So what happens when a dream is realized? Education and enrichment will continue to foster learning spaces for our lifelong learners, but just a few numbers for you to share. Students enrolled in educational programs are continuing to grow. Over $1 million in funding for access to post-secondary education has been granted to our students. Nearly 200 of whom have enrolled in post-secondary education. That is both university, 4-year college, 2-year, and vocational. So really excited about the strides that are being made in education. Culturally affirming spaces. I see Rodney in the room with San Francisco Bay Area Theater Company. So continuing to invest in the arts. And speaking of arts, all of the artwork was done by Devin Wright, a brilliant artist. And so we wanted to invite that arts and culture, and we wanted to be intentional today about how we're making investments in arts and culture, not only as a way to feel good, but as a way to heal, as a way to continue to progress, and as a viable career opportunity. Health and wellness, so thank you to our partners. Thousands and thousands of meals and people reached with access to high quality food. If you haven't been to Booker T, for example, on a Friday, you walk in, it smells like fresh broccoli, it smells like greens and kale. So that is just one of the many organizations that give out the produce, the fresh produce, our mental health practitioners, again, and then making sure that folks are permanently and stably housed. And then finally, capacity building. The one thing that I want to highlight on this capacity building and being intentional is in that yellow box, you would note that there were organizations, 34 out of 43 organizations reported an increase in funding ranging from $5,000 in their organizational budgets to $1.2 million in organizational budget. And so what that means is there is an organization who went through the capacity building efforts of the Dreamkeeper Initiative and has grown their organizational budget by $1.2 million. That should be celebrated. And so we're going to call that out. And finally, our community innovations. Over $3 million granted to seed ideas. specifically to say, you know what, we want to fund your dream. We may keep it real, like some of our mini grant organizations may have a real conversation, but this is to say your dream is not impossible. What happens to a dream realized? And as we note, most people, or most organizations are using mini grants for basic needs, to get basic needs to community members. And finally, the youth that we support in Brighter Futures, continuing to work with our young folks, continuing to invest in the holistic family work. So as we think about the year ahead, we'll continue to enhance our community engagement and partnerships through the office hours like I shared. We'll bolster our data research and evaluation to remain a learning organization and an organization that is committed to growing. And then we're committed to initiative sustainability. Where will this Dreamkeeper initiative be in 5 years, in 10 years? We want to make sure that dreams don't become deferred, no matter who is in office. We want to be sure that we're sustaining the dream. And so I invite you all to take a look at this Dreamkeeper pledge. And as I wrap, this is also in the Ed Studio. But the Dreamkeeper initiative and participation in it is like a lifestyle. It is a deep-rooted commitment to say, we love Black folks, we're gonna stand by Black folks. If you're Black, if you identify as Black, you're going to celebrate yourself. We're gonna acknowledge every win, no matter how small somebody may think it is. We won't quantify our dreams, and we will work together to collectively realize our dreams, because when we do, we can experience collective liberation. And so, just to wrap up, I'm looking forward to an amazing day. We're going to invite musicians up. We're going to have some amazing panelists about the history of San Francisco, about cultivating land and reclaiming our land. In the Ed Studio, there are vendors there, some of the vendors that we've supported through the Dreamkeeper Initiative, where you'll be able to purchase products from them. There's also a bookstore where you can experience some of the titles, and in my bag experience. So we got a lot of cool things, really, so that you can engage with the space. At any time, you can walk across the hall to the Ed Studio and come back in here, and then we will wrap the day with a keynote from Dr. Bettina Love. So again, my name is Dr. Saidah Leatutufu-Burch. I want to thank you for dreaming, and have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, the screening of Harlem of the West.
There's no way you can talk about San Francisco without talking about the Harlem of the West.
I remember just walking up and down those streets as a kid. We had our pool halls, we had our movie theater, we had our hotels, restaurants, record shops.
Someone brought me on a Friday night in 1964, and it was jumping. It was incredible. Everybody was like dressed to the nines.
San Francisco Black culture, I believe, is going through an evolution. I see it evolving into something more connected with our history.
A friend of mine reached out and she said, I have access to those photos from the book Harlem of the West. Do you think it's something you want to showcase at the studio? And I'm like, absolutely. She reached out to one of the curators of the book, Louis Watts, and he saw the gallery and he thought it would be a great place for his images.
So this is actually an amazing photograph. This was taken by David Johnson in the late 40s or early 50s at Post and Fillmore, a block from here, looking south. This is in the basement of the Booker T. Washington Hotel. And if you see, there's Ella Fitzgerald with her gloves nicely folded over her purse. And I love the Argyle socks that this dude in the front is wearing. I don't know if all the people taking these pictures knew they were making history, but it's funny how much is revealed in almost all of them.
Think about the Fillmore then. It was Japanese, blacks, some Mexicans, a few Puerto Ricans. We had black and white, and we had mixed families like me. I didn't have no problem. They called me no nigga. I was just a brother, another brother, living in the hood with the rest of them. But my brothers and them were all musicians and singers. So we had a hell of a time here in the Fillmore. And the only reason why it got bad, can I be honest? Shall I be honest? Was because the blacks made too much progress.
We had all kind of businesses up and down Fillmore Street. We didn't have to go down to Market Street because we had a Market Street on Fillmore. You know, everything was there. Yeah. This is where cool was born. We would come to Fillmore to catch the latest styles and then bring them around to the other communities.
The largest theater in the Western Addition was downtown. California had the Texas Playhouse. So we had a lot of activity along 81. I was too young to go up the stairs to Bob City. But I did hear a lot of music on the stairway.
This is actually Jimbo Edwards, who had Jimbo's Bob City. There's an interesting story how that came. But he had a Waffle House, and someone asked if they could use it after hours. So he got a bass and a drum set. Supposedly the bass was not very good, so most of the bass players would bring their own bass.
The whole scene and the mixing of the races, people socializing together. It originated in the Barbary Coast. That's where Jimbo got his first restaurant. And they allowed us to integrate down there and have our music. Other parts of town, no, it was segregated.
There's both subtle and overt segregation. African Americans in some venues were not allowed to play east of Van Ness.
This is Jimbo's, probably about 4 in the morning. You can get an idea of the vibe. It's funny though, in the photographs, the space looks a lot bigger than it is. When you see the space, it's very small. But this is actually Duke Ellington's sax player. It really was a gathering place where local musicians could test themselves against people that had international reputations.
The other thing that's interesting about this neighborhood is where we are is where Japantown in San Francisco was.
When the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, our West Coast became a potential combat zone. Living in that zone were more than 100,000 persons of Japanese ancestry, 2/3 of them American citizens, 1/3 aliens. Military authorities therefore determined that all of them, citizens and aliens alike, would have to move. This picture tells how
In 1942, the Japanese were rounded up and they were sent to concentration camps. And at the exact same time, because of Pearl Harbor, the shipyards in Hunters Point, in Oakland and Vallejo converted to wartime and needed people to work. The Japanese, most of whom were born here, who had been here almost the 20th century, their oppression led to an opportunity for people to escape the oppression of the Deep South.
And then we had this big inflection of blacks coming out here and settling in the Fillmore. Boom time. Everybody's got money, working at the shipyards.
The people that came here from Houston and Alabama, they've really made this place shine. You're talking about good musicians.
You had all these different people coming to San Francisco. There was always this burgeoning musical trading of ideas and cultures. People were allowed to be a little more free in who they were and how they dressed and how they interacted with each other.
Leola King, she was a realtor and an investor. noted at one point of being one of the most affluent women in San Francisco. I definitely have learned from her entrepreneurship.
And here's another picture of Billie Holiday done by Jerry Stoll, who was a local photographer. And a picture of Lena Horne with a fan signing an autograph.
I transferred to UC Berkeley in 1968, and I remember one of the first things I said, I need to find that neighborhood.
In the late 1950s, the redevelopment agency demolished 44 blocks, throwing 6,000 black, Japanese, and white families out into the street. With rents like $235 a month for studios in Cathedral Hill apartments, only 3 families could afford to move back in.
Redevelopment had already started. The vast majority of the population had been relocated. Many of the houses had been torn down. There was no evidence of the fact that black folks had lived here from 42 to 67, 68.
And we lived at 1334 8 Scott Street, right across the street from Benjamin Franklin. And then the redevelopment came in. And the house was in terrible disrepair, but it was our home.
Yeah, they ruined everything.
And, you know,
It was dilapidated. It needed to be redeveloped, but not to the point of tearing the spine out and killing our community. I felt cheated. You know, they took our culture away. You know, kids I went to school with, they were gone, they tore their houses down. They never got back to the community.
I don't know how my father got that place, but that Victorian was huge. Now, when I just went by the other day. Isn't there a project down there now? Yeah, they built the project on my house.
Thank God I was able to survive, you know, resisted, you know, the best way I can. It was difficult. I made sure my family was still able to live in the neighborhood and raise my children right there on Sutter and Webster. I went to Galileo High School. They know what Fillmore is.
In high school, I started exploring Fillmore, and I think the Visadero at the time might have had a jazz club. And I would go in there and just watch these musicians, some of which were like Sam and Charles. You know, I'll see them around all the time. Sam knew a lot about the history in the Fillmore, and he started taking me around and showing me kind of how it was back in the day.
We have 3 or 4 generations of us there. And we're still here today. Corey's got his beautiful family down there, you know, and we represent the music of today.
But this is my point. You never should change a neighborhood. Now they're asking black people to come back.
If you have money.
If you have money. But we can't afford to come back here. As good as my band can play, you heard a little of it, as good as they play. I haven't played on Fillmore, and I was born and raised here for the last 20 years. I played here 20 years ago. Wow. And I'm one of the best bass players around here. And I look good, too.
It's really time for us to really stand up. You know, that's why, you know, the people, we need to demand that these vacant buildings that they have, that they be given to eminent domain, let's cause eminent domain for us. Just like the sister's got this gallery here. This is beautiful. You know, when I came in, it just blew my mind the way
People from the community coming in and they're really pointing like, that's my uncle or that's my great-grandfather. And it's like, oh, okay, so these people really existed. And this really was a thriving community full of Black people, business owners, homeowners, professionals. It feels good to know that. You feel like there was a sense of camaraderie and respect and love. And I think we're building towards that as well. But just as long as we don't forget that, you know, then I think it could keep going. I think it could keep going. Mm-hmm.
The more we offer up when we play and we share our art, you understand that it's a little deeper than a job, a gig, or some notoriety or anything like that. It's like there is some healing to it.
That idea of remembering is really important. This triumph of all these people that came from the segregated, economically depressed South and made something of themselves with this opportunity. It's really important that that story survives.
All right, I'm in here recording myself. I gotta deal with it. Hey. Here we go.
Now I can't blame you. Was acting like a goddamn fool, yelling this and saying that. Girl, sometimes it just helps to be cool. But your love got the best of me, had me damn near on my knees. It's been 3 weeks, but now I'm back on my feet. I had to change it up, if you know what I mean. I'm feeling real good, I'm back in my groove tonight. Ain't no stopping my swag, I'm feeling like a boss tonight. And work has been long, work's been hard tonight. But now I'm feeling myself, I'm getting off the shelf tonight. Now I can't blame ya for getting all up in my face, saying this and doing that. Girl, it really sometimes feels disgrace. But it's time to make a change. You made it clear that you want to change. And now it's been 4 months, and now I'm giving up. Never.
And now, please welcome to the stage Domingo and friends.
Let me do my break song, and then we're going to the song, okay? Check this out. This is the cool-ass break song.
And he wrote it too. I'm gonna give you a little blues here, like it was on Fillmore. Party's jumping, everybody's having a good time. You know what's going through my mind. Do you mind if I get comfortable and kick up these shoes? While you're fixing me a drink, lay me some of them down home blues. You know I don't get out much on the town. But tonight I'm gonna get my head back and party on these down home blues. Down home blues and down home blues. All I wanna hear is some of them down home blues all week long. I've been keeping my cool, but tonight I'm gonna get my head back and party up these down home blues. Come on, Professor Tim, we want you to play your keyboard. Okay, Dr. Tim on the guitar. Just so you know, we have been together over 40 years collectively as a band. That one right there was 18 when he got with us, and I was 16. But that's how long it goes back. And on the drums is Mr. Will Young. He used to be our baby of the group, but he isn't anymore. He's old like the rest of us. And then we got Tim Watt on guitar, and he actually is a professor. Keyboard. And then on guitar, like I told you, Tim joined us when he was 18, and he's been playing with us ever since, and he is a doctor of what he does. And of course, you guys have seen Domingo and saw him on the video, and just like he said, he still plays better than everybody on the street. There you go. And he comes from a musical family, just so I put it out here. I don't know how many of you have heard of Sugar Pie DeSanto. Okay, there's a family of 11 of them. Sugar Pie was the oldest. He was the baby. So there's only 3 of them left now, but still got that talent. There you go.
That's Miss Lorraine Ballington, my wife for 47 years. 47 years. I'm one of the coolest brothers around.
And if you notice, everybody dressed back then. I don't know what happened to people now. You guys wear them raggedy jeans and shirts and, you know. We didn't, and even to this day when we go out, my husband and I dress. That's because that's the way we were trained. And it's something about being dressed that makes you feel good. You look good, you feel good, and people look at you because they know you are somebody. And that's the way them black folks were. They were somebody.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Another round of applause for Domingo and friends.
Panelists introduce themselves, and we can go ahead and start with the Mr. Domingo Ballantyne.
Tutu. Bring it up some. No, I sing all the time, so I'm a little hoarse. So I'm Domingo Ballantyne. I'm black and Filipino. We were raised here in the Fillmore. I was born I'm 80 years old. I just made 80 in December. So.
And Ms. Erica.
Oh. Hi, I'm Erica Scott. I am, hi. Third generation here in the Fillmore, and my kids are now the fourth generation. Both my maternal and paternal grandmothers raised their families here. And I currently operate Honey Art Studio, which you saw in the video. And like Louis Watts, who was one of the photographers and curators of the book Harlem of the West, I studied at UC Berkeley and was the opposite. I went to UC Berkeley and said, how can I bring the training, the information, the knowledge from Berkeley back to my community? And so just a culmination of everything is how I'm here today. So thank you.
Thank you. And again, my name is James Lockhart. I'm the Program Coordinator for Health, Healing, and Wellness with the Dreamkeeper Initiative, and I'm so happy to moderate this esteemed panel. Let's go ahead and dive into it, and I think Mr. Peoples will be here soon. So first, how does black music serve as a vehicle for cultural affirmation?
Say it again.
How does black music serve as a vehicle for cultural affirmation?
It served well.
Oh, yeah. Talk about it. Let the people know.
I hope I got the question right so I can answer you correctly. Well, it served us well. I mean, it served me well. So I have nothing else to say about that.
So I'm not particularly a musician or anything like that, but I love black music. And as many of us do, the significance and the affirming space that music holds goes way back. If we talk about slavery and we talk about our spirituality, and music has always served as a voice of upliftment, and also we know as a voice of oppression. And it has carried us through. And it's an honor to learn and be a part of what was the Harlem of the West, and showcasing the music and the talent and the beauty of us coming together through music. And our goal is to continue that.
Absolutely. So speaking of Harlem of the West, as we have seen in the film, the influx of black folks in San Francisco in the 1940s and 50s greatly influenced the development of communities and shaped artistic expression. Can you talk a little more about what that process was like as we saw more and more black folks come into the city?
Well, it was fun for us. I hope you can imagine me. My family came in 1929. Yeah, we came here in 1929. I was born here in 43. But it was a pleasure to see other people of your color to come here and just make a beautiful place, you know, in the Fillmore, with all the culture and everything and all the good cooking and the food. You could hear people singing, walking up and down the street. We were a happy neighborhood. You can go on each corner during the 50s and hear different singing groups. I can't give you the name, but it was very cultural for our people to have a good time. So I had a very good time coming up as a teenager and as a young man in the 50s, 60s, 70s. 80s, 90s, 2000.
Yes, and you are still alive and well and keeping us motivated. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Keep you kicking.
Keep us kicking, yes. Growing up in the Fillmore in the 80s, 90s was a little different. This serves as the Harlem of West as a history, but for me, it was just very apparent the difference of what Black communities look like compared to other communities. When you live in San Francisco and you go to school in different areas, the marina, the avenues, it just looked and felt so different in our community. It was just always a lack and a struggle. However, my mother, when I would mention that, she would remind me of the significance of Black people and how much we contributed to this city. And the poverty and the struggle and the challenges were not of our own doing. And it's so important to hear that and know that, because you just feel so less than in the very beginning, in elementary school and middle school. Like Dr. Davis said this morning, starting my day, I started with a scripture, and it was, "The joy of the Lord is my strength." And so for us all to be here today, it's a joyful thing, and it comes from a lot of oppression and struggle. However, the dream realized, Saidah, is real. And so there's a culmination of the hurt, the pain, but the music, the love, the camaraderie is still alive, and this is obvious. So using music as a catalyst is very significant.
And Mr. Peoples, thank you so much for joining us. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself as well and let the folks know, what is your contribution musically to San Francisco?
My name is Sam Peoples, and I'm a musician born here in San Francisco in 1949. And I happened to have been born into a very musical family that was pre-Harlem of the West. They were performing here in the late 20s and the 30s, and it was an area in town called the International Center, which was located out there on Pacific Avenue, 500 block. And that was the template for the Harlem and West Upper for Fillmore, because a lot of the Black owners got their start down there at the International Center. And matter of fact, Jimbo, who had a waffle and chicken place down there on Broadway, and then he moved up on Fillmore. The Fillmore at that time, with my family, it was only like 1,700 Black people here. This is like, I guess around 1920, 1930. And my grandfather must have came out here from Illinois in 1906 after the earthquake, and my grandmother was up in Red Bluff at the time. She was the matrix of the music in my family. She was a classically trained pianist who learned from a German teacher. So she met my grandfather, I guess it was around after 1906. They had 2 children at the time. My Uncle Wesley and my Aunt Neva in 1913, 1914. And she taught both of them piano, and they were extremely talented. They worked from a very early age. Neva was a dancer, singer, actress, pianist. Wesley was a pianist, clarinetist, and a horn orchestra leader. And he got the start. He started Eddie Alley, Vernon Alley, and Earl Watkins. They started with my Uncle Wesley's band. There's pictures of him. There's a book called Jazz on the Barbary Coast. And they talk about all the music that was down there, and it was, they refer to us as colored band, colored people, but the best colored dance. And if you know your history of jazz and dance went right together. They how would you say, they formed together. My family explained that to me. My aunt was a fantastic, great professional dancer, but she was my first piano teacher. And she would sit up there and tell me, you act like you're dancing when you play the piano,
know, doom, 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 baby. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 bop, you know. And this is where the improvisation, because jazz was not called jazz in the beginning, it was called syncopation, which meant upbeat. And this is from our drums from Africa. So it was a merge between the drums, the syncopation, with the Western music, which was more kind of 1, 2, 1, 2. But you get the syncopation, you got 1, 2, boop. So they went hand in hand together. And there was a place where San Francisco was doing the Barbary Coast, similar to Storyville in New Orleans. And Storyville was where jazz was basically originated in this country. And I guess you can call it a gumbo, because Storyville was basically set up for prostitution. So the prostitution and the music went hand in hand along with the other vices. And they basically taken these little templates and moved them up to Chicago, Detroit, New York, Kansas City. And we worked for gangsters, you know. They're the only ones that supported the music.
Right.
You know, and they had speakeasies. Storyville lasted from 1897 up to 1917, and they finally closed it down. It was a black eye because of the vice. The jazz Barbary Coast here in San Francisco went from like around the same time of 1897. They finally closed that down in 1921. It was a big black eye in the city. But that's where the music was born from, and the dance. So they opened it back up, I guess, during the, it stayed closed, but at this time, women got their vote in 1919, and the jazz age was begun. 1920, the flappers and the whole thing. Women were liberated, and they were able to go out more and smoke cigarettes and drink. And they started they didn't start the Barbary Coast back up, but they put the music back on the same street and called it the International Center. And that's where my family became involved in it. My Uncle Wesley and my Aunt Neva. And she worked down, there were 2 black men dancers. And, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
Yeah, and
Okay. You also brought up, real quick, you brought up the improvisational roots, right, of jazz.
Yes.
And so we want to talk a little more about how does that shape the development of R&B and hip hop? So like more contemporarily, how does the roots of black music shape today's music?
Well, the styles was basically blues. In New Orleans was blues, and then came the vaudeville music, the 32-bar chorus music. And what the blacks did, they syncopated the music. They just made it more danceable. You know, you could move, you could get rhythm to it. Before they basically were doing the 1-step, 2-trot, the foxtrot.
Oh yeah.
But through our people, the dancing became more complex. And it's a very interesting question, because what happened, the jazz music and the dance stayed together all through the 20s, all through the 30s, and something happened in the 40s. It went away. It wasn't, the dance wasn't married with the jazz anymore. The groups went down to 3 and 4 pieces, and it became more of like a parlor listening to music.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Mr. Ballantyne, so would you also like to maybe talk a little bit about the roots of jazz and how that has impacted today's R&B and hip hop?
Say that again.
So the roots of black music, jazz music, blues.
Well, actually, from blues came hip hop.
Yeah, the mic.
Oh, from blues came hip hop, jazz, and a lot of other things. He's right about that, about the Barbary Coast. There were a lot of blacks that lived down there. But getting back to the music part, he took us back way back. I mean, way back. But yeah, it had a very significant thing with our blues and rhythm and blues. Jazz did. Well, blues actually, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The rhythm and blues also what also happened, like the jazz musicians of Detroit, they used to be called the Keyhole Lounge, but that whole rhythm, James Jamerson, and the whole Motown thing, these were all jazz musicians, for working for Berry Gordy. They had that background, and they just went in and knew about the rhythm and blues. And also what happened with jazz went into hip hop through the sampling. They sample these jazz riffs and stuff, and you have people like Dr. Dre and Ice Cube and stuff. They're using those samples in those beats, So we were very much involved in the hip hop movement. And like I said, the musicians were jazz musicians that did all that Motown thing, which put Motown on the map.
It was also significant in the language, and again. The voice and a way of speaking out, and it connected with the Black Panther Party, and then they called them the Panther Cubs, and that's where we had Tupac and others from that generation of speaking out against police brutality and oppression and poverty, and that sparked the connection of music from one genre to the next, and then of course, like Mr. People said, and sampling the music again, but with the hip hop, it was the words, and just being alive and saying exactly what's going on in the community, what's going on with the people, what's going on, and how we can relate to one another, and you hear something and you feel it, and then like it all comes together in the dance, and just being able to understand and relate, and again all the genres coming together from what we're saying and what we believe as a people.
I think that segues beautifully into my next question. So, Black music, it serves as a healing source, right? So how does Black music function as a therapeutic and healing force that fosters resilience and well-being within Black communities? Want me to yes, please.
Well, it is. All of our music is healing. Anytime you can dance to something like that, it heals you. It heals your soul, your body, your mind. If more people would listen to music, there would be more well people than there are sick people today. But that's what music does for you. It heals your soul and your body. It really does. The more you listen to music, the better you feel.
Amen.
The better you feel. Oh, wait. And the better you look. Yeah. Wait, one more. The more you dance.
As we speak about healing and music, I have to honor Dr. Scott because she's, and many of our, many others, as we pay attention to what we're hearing and what we're saying and what we're speaking, because a lot of hurt also comes from music. And it's just perpetuated on and on, generation by generation. And there's lots of love, there's lots of unity, but when we talk about healing, words matter, music matters, sound matters, and just being more cognizant of that as we are really, really honoring wellness as a people. Just really, really wanted to give voice to that because so much pain has happened, and the society has used our music against us.
I'd like to add something to that, something we've been experimenting around with, which I call the Orpheus effect. And I've been doing my studying about Orpheus. I've read about that in school, but there's more materials about him. And he was a supreme musician, whereas he played the lyre and he can make the water stop, birds stop flying, and rocks move. And it has a lot to do with him having something in his inner life as a pure heart and his relationship with God. So I've been dwelling on that and getting myself together spiritually with this, and we've been experimenting with it, and we have some great results. I mean, just for like having a bird come up next to your amp, and we're playing, and they're just sitting there, taking all the sounds. And I did a gig. I worked at the beach chalet here in San Francisco, and I've been out there for 3 years. And I'm playing on this beautiful grand piano that they have me, and I had this woman walk up to me, and she asked me, "Could I lay under your piano while you play?" And she went back and got her girlfriend, and they laid under my piano while I did the song. And I scratched my head. And so I did some more research on it. I said, this is something that probably has something to do with this Orpheus effect, as far as our music, how it, it soothes the soul, and it cleanses you, And I know it does that, and I'm watching what my reaction I'm having on my audience. It's a family place where I work at the beach chalet, and there's little young toddlers coming up there, and the mothers come up and bringing their kids to the piano and shaking them and everything, and the kids are dancing, just little toddlers and stuff. And I'm just saying, this is, these children are pure, they don't have anything hanging them up. But just to see them respond to my music that way, just say, I'm looking over at my partner, Corey, I'm saying, man, what's going on here? Orpheus effect. So if you get a chance to go and read up on his Greek mythology, who Orpheus was, and his history, and he was a supreme musician. Eventually, they killed him.
Well, speaking of the youth and the future, how can we sustain efforts to rejuvenate and promote Black music within the San Francisco community?
I can tell you that.
Oh, please.
That's easy. Build more clubs, hire more bands. You'll feel better about it. When I grew up here, hey, it was jumping. I could go from club to club, from Bob City to Blue Mirror. I could name them all for you. I have a list of them. It was always someplace to go to make you feel better. You feel me? That's what's wrong with San Francisco. If I had the money, I'd open up my club here in San Francisco. So this is the place to be with music. If they would open it up a little bit more, bring some of the Black clubs back. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not prejudiced. Just bring them back. Wait, I just want to say this. You can't take the color out of life. They need that here in the city.
That's right.
They need that. You can't do that. That's what makes us different from every other country. If you go to China, I've been to China, if you look, it's just a sea of black hair. That's all you see, just a sea of it. Here, you get a better choice of looking at different people, seeing different cultures, listening to different music. That's what the Fillmore needs, more music. It's simple. Everybody tries to make everything, huge and so important. It's not. All you got to do is just build it. People will come. They will come back. Yeah. You feel me? It's not as bad as you think it is. All we need is some brothers with some money. Shit. No, really. Think about it. We build these clubs, and I've known this brother forever. Then him and I have more jobs. Right?
Erica.
Yes. So definitely to echo, more clubs, more businesses, more opportunity. My mother operated her own business for 25 years in the Fillmore. She hired probably all of my friends at some point. There's just significance when there's economic development, where there's business development, where there's cultural affirming spaces. And so to continue that for generations to come, places and opportunity as it relates to economic and entrepreneurship.
Yes. Samuel.
You're very right, Domingo, about having the entrepreneurs. For your history, the one that was a big promoter for the music in our community was Charles Sullivan. I don't know if you people have heard of him, but he was the man. He was the entrepreneur. He came out here in San Francisco in 1934, worked as a chauffeur and worked as a machinist and stuff, and endeared himself to a lot of the political people downtown, and was able to get the entertainment and the jukebox licenses for the various different clubs and stuff in the Fillmore. So if you wanted to have a group and play there, you had to go through Charles Sullivan. And he had the licenses. He had the Booker T. Washington Hotel and everything. He got the comedians in there and all the, various other people. And it was paramount. He had the Fillmore Auditorium and everything. And eventually, he was approached by Bill Graham, who came out here from New York, VI Berlin. And he took Bill Graham under his wing. And Bill Graham wanted to give his own shows, and Charles Sullivan said, well, you go downtown, man, and put your name on the list like I did, and get the licenses and stuff and everything. So, I mean, if he's working with jukeboxes, I'm sure he's involved with gangsters, because that sounds like mafioso to me. But Bill hung with him, and he would loan him his license so he could, do various venues and stuff. And finally, in 1966, they found Charles Sullivan dead. It was a bullet wound in his side or somewhere with his own gun, and they called it suicide. But I think it has something to do with the gangsters, my particular opinion. And Bill Graham, they asked him what he had to say about it, and he said, oh, well, he went and got himself killed. But and also, let's not just say Charles Sullivan. Let's give some accolades to Leolis King. She was the madam, man, and we have to give her, because she had those clubs going on and everything. And also, I want to give accolades to the sisters, my mother, grandmothers, and all your mothers and stuff, because they were the ones that had the houses in the Fillmore. And they turned them into boarding houses so they could rent rooms out to the various different artists and to the people that were working at the shipyards. And their template or their algorithm was Mary Pleasant. Yeah. Mama Pleasant, they called her. There's a street named after her. And she was, and they'd ask her, well, what you doing? She said, well, she had money when she came out here from her husband, who died or whatever. But she was into real estate, restaurants, housekeeping, and such. And they asked Mary, what did she do? Who are you? And you know what she said? I'm a capitalist. But they've given that woman a street over on Nob Hill. Mm-hmm. But she was the model for others, black women coming out here doing the same thing, renting those houses from those Jewish people who left the Fillmore and moved out to Marin County and Richmond. And the laws changed, because these houses were basically one-family houses. So they changed the law where they can make apartments out of them. So our women, they rented the whole house, and they rented the rooms out. And they also made meals, food and stuff. And that's what's basically sustained us in the Fillmore district, because it was basically Jewish people, the Japanese, and the black. Those were the three races that were in that whole area. And then you had a little offshoot of Mexicans, Filipinos, and so on and so on. But the Jewish people were moved up to the Fillmore after the earthquake in 1906, because they were in the South Market area. That's where they had their businesses at. And when all that burned down, they moved up on Fillmore and put their delicatessens and their haberdasheries and stuff, and they would keep their stores open till 11 o'clock at night. So and then you had this black population that came out here during the war, and that's the only place we could stay. Yeah. So we stayed there in the Fillmore, and the Fillmore, it blew up. And they took the Japanese at the time, and they threw them in, the internment camps in 1940. Yeah. So those spaces were open to us.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank this esteemed panel. Please give it up. We got Samuel Peoples, Miss Erica Scott, Domingo Ballantyne, thank you for your wealth of knowledge. And we were going to keep the show going. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
And if there's anything else you want to know, just ask.
I'd like to say that me and Jacory Baptiste, we work every Monday night at Beach Chalet here in San Francisco from 5 to 8. So please come out and bring your children too.
Well,
It's a
can I
family
do
restaurant.
mine too?
Absolutely.
Hey, yeah. Etta James lived with us. There's a lot of things that he's talking about. I know about all those things, but I don't mention them because I just want to talk about music. But listen, I'm going to be at the Peacock Room here in San Francisco on Haight Street on the 23rd of March. I'll bring my full band. And you think Lorraine can sing, you ought to hear her then. So put it on your calendar. Domingo and Friends, featuring Lorraine. Let me stand up. I love doing this. I get off on this. Domingo and Friends, featuring Lorraine Ballantyne. She'll be singing at the Peacock Room, the 23rd of March. Then you can come and talk to me personally.
Can I make an announcement? And please come visit the fantastic exhibit that you've seen in the film. We are on Sutter Street, 1981. Sutter, between Fillmore and Webster. That's Honey Art Studio. And you can join us tomorrow evening after the events here. We have First Friday Fish Fry and Paint Night, so you have an opportunity to paint with us. Again, that's 1981 Sutter Street. And then we are celebrating the Super Bowl at the studio as well. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right. Thank you all so much.